All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas Podcast, where I'm still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee. Everything school HQ, basketball, football, baseball, doesn't matter. Everything coming up. Tennessee Volunteers, all orange, all the time. First timer since the Florida Gators went 6-7 in back-to-back seasons. The Florida Gator alum, Trevor Sikkema of PFF. Trevor, how are you?
You just had to remind me about that, didn't you? Yeah, no, I'm doing well, fellas. Appreciate you guys having me on the podcast. Anytime I get to chat, little ball, little life, little everything with you guys, it's a good time. So I appreciate you having me on.
What was your favorite touchdown in the Oregon State Vegas bowl game for the Gators?
I'll have to go back and watch the tape and get back to you on that one.
Yeah.
I gotta say,
lot to choose from.
Don't use Oregon State on him nor me. I don't appreciate that.
Well, that's because you're an Oregon guy, too.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that one out, obviously.
Yeah, well, you had everything's coming up Oregon right now. Everything's good.
Bo Nix is good now, which is like kind of crazy. Like, never would have thought that was going to happen.
With that jawline, it was only a matter of time. Come on.
I actually do have a category in my scouting reports, just like jawline. And then it's just like, how defined is it 1 to 10? And that's... I've found that's actually the biggest telltale sign of success in quarterback is the jawline. So
it's all confidence.
What's the weirdest thing you actually do? Or what's maybe not weird, but what's different about that you look for in quarterbacks than other people, where they're like, oh, I didn't even think to look for that, or that you scout or you find yourself paying attention to when you're at the Senior Bowl or anything like that? Is there anything specific that you are, for whatever reason, drawn to as a skill set for a quarterback?
I don't really know about anything like out of the ordinary. Like, obviously quarterback is so much more of a mental position than anything else. Like, so much of the rest of the game demands such a high level of physicality. And like, yeah, obviously a quarterback, you've got to have a good arm. You want to be athletic. It helps you be a dual threat quarterback. It helps you bring assets to your team. But outside of like hearing stories, which I probably can't tell most, the hand size thing is always the funniest stuff to me. Like it's always funny. It's like, oh, this guy, because what the best part is that guys will get measurements at the Senior Bowl like 3 weeks before the combine, and then if their hand, if they have like short hands, they will hire like hand massage therapists to try to like stretch their hand just a little bit to hit these stupid thresholds that some of these teams have for quarterback hands. And like, the hand size circus is always just the thing that I love the most.
I just want to say that I mean this with my whole heart. It's dark magic, witchcraft, this whole hand situation, because me and Kyler Murray have the same size hands, and I can't throw a football. Like, I physically, it's too big for my hand. But if you do the measurements, me and Kyler Murray have the same size hands. So
Do you?
Yeah, literally. I went out of my way to measure it. We have the same size hands.
What was Kyler's?
It's like 5 and 3. I don't even know. I don't know.
Let me look. Because Kyler did have small hands.
He did.
Are they smaller than Kenny Pickett's or no?
No. So Kyler's got 9.5 inch hands. Burrow had 9-inch hands, and I remember like that was a big hubbub. It was like,
right.
It was like, oh hey, this guy broke every record there is to break in college football, but the hand is small.
It ended up also, it gave us the best tweet of all time, too. Unfortunately, I've just been informed that my hands are not good enough for the NFL, and I will be ending my career here.
It's always the best spectacle. No, Kenny Pickett's were like insanely small, but I think it was because I can't remember if it was his pinky finger or if it was his thumb has like a hitch like on his throwing hand. So when you literally like stretch out Kenny Pickett's hand, I think it was his thumb, doesn't fully extend the way that you would need to, because when you measure hands, you go from the tip of your thumb to the end of your pinky. That's the hand size that you measure. So like Kenny's thumb doesn't fully extend. So he lost like almost like a full inch on his hand size, just because it's not because he has small hands, it's because he couldn't stretch it out, which obviously doesn't really matter for throwing a football.
So what would that
because
make
he's
his
doing
hand if
fine.
it could stretch it out normally? Would it be bigger than Burrow's or right at Burrow's?
I don't remember. I think if they measured the other hand, it was like above 9, so like wasn't that big of a deal at all whatsoever. But people like to freak out about it.
It's also funny too because I feel like if you get in that zone, can he pick it? Does he sleep in the gloves? Is he just like required, like when you
I
sign the
think so.
NFL contract,
Yeah.
like you were a glove guy?
Yeah.
Every time, like I've never seen his hands. Like he's only been in the gloves from
He likes
the beginning to end.
gloves.
Yeah.
It works. He's getting better. Seeing some improvement.
Yeah.
Steelers are winning games. I mean, what are you can't complain.
Look, you don't have to spend money on like, disposable gloves, for germs. You don't have to spend money on like driving gloves if you want to be fancy, driving a date around, whatever. You don't have to do that. You don't have to buy like a loofah because you've already got gloves on, so you can just shower with them on. It exfoliates the skin. Like it's just it might actually just be a pro strat from Kenny
Right.
Pickett
And
to just be
honestly,
a glove
like
guy.
not to be like, thinking about the wrong things here, but let's talk about accessorizing, right? Like there's different colors, different materials. You can go full leather, right? You can do studded. Maybe not on game day, but like there's just the possibilities are endless.
Brother, you're talking about somebody who, when I start a Madden franchise, I will change people's accessories because if they're wearing something that I wouldn't wear, then I mean, like, look, I let guys, like have their freedom, and, have their creative expression. But if you're wearing something that's an ugly accessory, it's not going on my team. I don't know what to tell you about it. So
I was always a towel and visor guy in the accessory department that I would add to all my players. Like if you don't have visors, you're not on my team.
See, but you can't do it with everybody.
Oh, you can. It's all intimidating. Everyone's coming out of the.
You do it with a couple of guys, because then you know who the stars
you're
are.
not you're not doing a visor on a guard.
Why not? You don't want to see a guard. Elijah Wilkinson with the visor is a totally different player than the Elijah Wilkinson we see week over week.
It might be true. True.
Listen, man, if I see a pair of like leather gator boots, on me, it's going to look a little bit different than if like Lamar Jackson is wearing it. You know what I mean? Like, as some things that I just can't pull off, there's some things that guards can't.
Hey, we've all gone in the. I shouldn't say we all. Have we all done the leather jacket phase in our 20s? We're like, we can do this.
Guarantee, I'll bet my whole life that Trevor has worn a leather jacket.
Do I have a leather jacket right
Well, actually,
now?
no, but you lived in Florida. That's just like insane.
Yeah, but it's like a fashion statement. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think I had an H&M leather jacket at some point. Shout out H&M.
There you go.
Now a sponsor of the podcast.
I would say, who doesn't like H&M? Good
Again?
deals at H&M.
Other than that, I don't think I have a leather jacket in my closet. I don't think so.
I like it, which naturally leads us to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who.
Yeah, this is good. Good.
Yeah, I mean, they're.
Good transition.
We're both hosts here. We're all pros on this.
Brady does probably have a lot of leather.
Oh, dude. Brady's got
absolutely does.
Brady's got leather on like places that you didn't know leather went on. Like
That's true.
Brady might have leather on his like fridge. You know what I mean? Like a fridge door handle. It's leather.
No, the whole fridge is. The whole outside of the fridge is leather.
Ice cube tray, leather. Dog.
I remember when I found out that like leather was like an important thing to like for this. I remember this girl like asked, she was like, "You don't have leather in your car?" Like I remember that was something like 15 years ago. I was like, "Is that a thing?" I had this piece of shit Honda Accord, and it was just obviously no leather seats, and it was just like one of those. You didn't spring for leather? Is that and that was like a big deal. Like
Chase,
leather
I gotta
seats.
tell you, if you're wondering, if you're asking, the WRX had leather. I'll tell you that much. The WRX had leather. So
Yeah.
it's that kind of podcast.
My last car was a Challenger. Don't have it anymore because I live in a city and I just get to walk everywhere. But it did have leather.
Isn't that wild? Like I just didn't know, and I was like, I'll never buy another car without leather seats. Like it was
You have to.
Yeah. So there you go. Which actually brings us back to Tom Brady, and we don't have to get into the leather aspect of Tom Brady's wardrobe, inner workings of his kitchen, this, that, and the other. But his team is going to host a playoff game, which is pretty wild given the kind of season that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have had. Trevor, are they going to be frisky? Are they going to beat the Cowboys in round one? Is that just how this has to end? Or do the Cowboys... I mean, we should also preface, the Cowboys can still be the number one seed in the NFC after next weekend, correct?
No,
Because
it's
if the
not gonna
Eagles
happen.
lose and they win the NFC East, right? Isn't that still?
Hey, listen, we only have Trevor for a little bit of time.
Yeah.
We're not wasting it on the Cowboys. In that.
Well, no, they will play the Cowboys
Mathematically-
most likely in round one.
Mathematically, yes, they can win the NFC East. Because if the Eagles lose and the Cowboys win, I do think the Cowboys win the NFC East.
But they can't be the number one seed.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay.
Simply because the Giants are who the Eagles are playing, and the Giants have nothing to play for. So I got to imagine that their starters aren't going to play the whole game, and the Eagles have everything to play for. Right? They win, they get the bye. So it's just as simple as that. So
and also the 49ers are going to win the NFC.
Oh yes, of course, yeah,
Sorry.
of course. I forgot. No, but it does look like it's going to be Tampa versus the Cowboys, and Tampa feels like they match up well with the Cowboys. They've beaten the Cowboys the last 2 times that they played. It just feels like Tom Brady always gets up to play this team. There's not a lot of areas right now where I could say that I have total faith in the Buccaneers executing their offense or defensive game plans the way that they need to, but it's Tom Brady in the playoffs. And that's the ultimate trump card on everything, is that I can look at this Buccaneers team and I can tell you this team is a massive disappointment in every single area this season. And I would be telling the truth. The team is a disappointment in every single area, some more than others. But at the end of the day, it's Tom Brady playing in the playoffs, hosting a playoff game. And it's against a familiar foe. It's against the Cowboys. He's beaten them before. They're getting healthy down the stretch. They obviously had a great offensive output against the Panthers. And so, as weird as it is to say, yes, I could see this Buccaneers team winning a playoff game because of the matchup that it's against Dallas.
I feel like Tom Brady was just saying to the world with the way this game ended, like he's just chilling all season long, hanging out, right? He's going through his marital problems, handling his personal life, doing the family thing. And then right 2 games before the end of the season goes, hey, in case you guys were wondering, in case you guys forgot, I'm going to throw 3 touchdowns to Mike Evans. And I don't mean to be that guy, because I think Steve Wilkes deserves the job, but Tom Brady might have just become the reason why Jim Harbaugh becomes the head coach in Carolina. There's like some things that are happening in correlation that pieces are falling, and I got to say that was a very definitive game for Brady to finish the season out.
No, it's obviously that's a lot of momentum for them going into the year. And I'll tell you, when you look at the reasons why this Tampa team has been so disappointing, I think at the root of all of them is the team was just mentally broken for whatever reason. I don't really understand, because you go into the year and everyone predicted the Bucs, of course, win in the NFC South. They did, but it was with a record they didn't really expect. A lot of people thought that Tampa would be a double-digit win team again, an easy victory here for the division, and they haven't been, and they've really struggled. And going into the year, you go, okay, Bruce Arians steps down. Todd Bowles now wearing the head coach headset, but it's the same exact staff other than Arians. Heck, Arians is even still there at practice. He's just riding around on the golf cart. He just has less responsibilities. The whole rest of the team's basically still there. They don't have Gronk. They don't have Antonio Brown, which were obviously big pieces to the offense last year, but it should pretty much be the same. They really shouldn't struggle that much. Yeah, they had injuries, but every team in the NFL has injuries. The weird part about the Bucs is that it's like they stopped believing they were a good team. Or, on the flip side, I guess, they just could not get out of their own way. It was like when bad things happened to this team, they could not stop the snowball effect. They could not stop the avalanche. And it just didn't feel like a Tom Brady-led team. That was obviously never something that was a characteristic of when Arians was the head coach over the last 2 years. Arians' teams have never been short on confidence. For as much as you want to say about them maybe not executing the way that they need to, maybe not having the talent that they needed to, Arians' teams have never been short on confidence. And I think that teams naturally take the identity of their head coach, and that's just how Bruce Arians was. I think we all underestimated or even just didn't know the effect that was going to have with the changes, because that's ultimately what it's been for me. They've got the talent on the team, even with the injuries. They just haven't believed. You go back to that first Panthers game that they played in Carolina, Mike Evans drops a bomb touchdown pass in which he would have walked into the end zone on the 3rd play of the game, and after the game he says, I watched the life drain out of us when I went to the sideline. It's like, hell, what? The 3rd play of the game? Against a team that you should easily beat? You saw the life drain out of you? And that spoke volumes to me about where that team was mentally. So all that to say, I don't necessarily think that what we saw last week in Carolina was a total fluke. I do still think the properties of their success that week can be can be accounted for when it comes to playoff time. And then for the Cowboys themselves, man, Dak's been turning the ball over a lot over the second half of the season. And anytime that's the recipe, you're giving Tom Brady more possessions. It's a road game. That's why I think this is a pretty even matchup, and I really don't know who's going to win it.
Do you think that like the injuries to the offensive line in like preseason, is that like a gut punch that maybe did that? Because I mean, I remember we all were like, oh yeah, the Bucs look good this year. They can compete. And then it was like, you're starting tackle, center, whoever it was like, oh God, like it's his entire line. And then like, is that maybe where the confidence kind of shrank?
Yeah, I think that there's certainly logic to that. There's definitely truth to that. Ryan Jensen, he's their center, but also he's like a leader of the team. Like he's a vocal leader, he's a fiery leader, he's an attitude, tone-setting leader. And they lost him at the beginning of the preseason, so like that sucked. They were already down Ali Marpet, who retired sort of surprisingly during the offseason, and then they lost Alex Kappa, their other guard, in free agency. So now all of a sudden, Jensen's hurt, Kappa's gone, and Marpet's retired. That's three of your three interior offensive linemen that you're now replacing. Robert Hainsey plays center. It's like, okay, he's a decent step in. They got Shaq Mason in a trade, which was good. Shaq Mason's an experienced guard. But then I think at left guard, they really struggled to find the right guy. I think Nick Leverett has proven that he's the guy, the best player out there for that left guard spot, but it took them like 12 weeks to realize that. They were rotating left guards in there before they really figured it out. Tristan Wirfs missed some time with injury. Donovan Smith, their left tackle, took a step back because the offensive line wasn't as solid next to him, so he became the most penalized offensive lineman in football with his mistakes, and all of that goes into then Brady. Now he's getting the ball out of his hand faster than any quarterback in the NFL. His time to throw is as low as it can possibly get. Shooting against the Arizona Cardinals 2 weeks ago, it was 1.88. What wide receiver is getting open in 1.88 seconds? And he's just getting rid of the ball in an average time of that, which means that there were throws that were faster than that, knowing that how an averages work. So that's it's a lot of things go into it. Certainly it all starts up front, but that's kind of the way that I see how the Bucs kind of got to this point with that.
Last thing on the Bucs. True or false? Byron Leftwich, Todd Bowles, and Jason Light are all still with this team at the start of next year.
False. It's got to be false. It has to be false. Byron Leftwich can't be the offensive coordinator on this team next year. I guess I will say this. I don't know what happens with Brady, and if Brady leaves, if he retires, what if he's just not in Tampa next year, then all of a sudden maybe it opens the door to say like, okay, new thought process with the quarterback position. Maybe you bring everybody back, because this is the Super Bowl staff, right? It's not like they're like looking to move on from these guys easily. They've got a bond of a Super Bowl ring all together. They've been on this staff for 4 years together, so I know they have a lot of continuity with each other, a lot of friendships, a lot of relationships, but it just feels like at least Byron Leftwich has to be gone. The offense was so bad this year in so many different ways. I feel like he's going to, I say scapegoat, but maybe deservingly so, not going to be the offensive coordinator next year. I think because they make the playoffs that Todd Bowles is safe. A lot of people would tell you that he shouldn't be, but I think that because they made the playoffs, he's going to be safe. And then I do think Jason Light's fully safe as GM.
Do you trust Bowles to make the next OC hire?
No. I mean, I don't really trust Bowles as a head coach at this point. Yeah, his tenure in New York was bad, and obviously him taking over with this team, it's been a massive disappointment. And so I think Todd Bowles is one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. I think he's a brilliant defensive mind. Not everybody's cut out to be a head coach. A head coach is a different breed. Plus, you look at a lot of in-game decisions, whether it's 2-minute drills at the end of the first half, 2-minute drills at the end of the game, timeout decision-making, conversion decision-making, going forward on fourth down or kicking a field goal or whatever it is. I've been on the opposite side of a lot of Todd Bowles' decisions in that regard. Sometimes it's worked out for him, but in those times, they've needed a lot of luck for it to go their way. So that's also something that goes into me not having a ton of faith in Todd Bowles as a head coach.
We all can't have Arthur Smith roaming the sidelines and creating their own new Derrick Henry with Tyler Algier. Many are saying the next Derrick Henry of the NFL. Evan Sowards. 49ers still cannot lose with Brock Purdy. The biggest thing I was wondering about from your perspective is they gave up the most amount of points they have since their last loss, which was to KC. What did Vegas do that you saw against this 49ers defense that was different than what everybody else has done to this point against them?
I mean, everything you could say about Josh McDaniels being a failure as a head coach is valid, and we could talk about that. I mean, it's whatever. But the reality is he's still a really good play designer, and he had the defense in some very bad positions a few times that game. When you think about a 49ers team or any team that is trying to make it to the Super Bowl, a team that's won 9 games in a row, the one thing you kind of have to say to yourself is you don't want them to kind of let off the gas. You don't want them to, whether it be mentally or, the motivation to really slow down or stop. And I talked a little bit about like, I want to see Brock Purdy have some kind of adversity. Like I want to see him, as like, it's silly to say this, but I want him to have some kind of adversity before the playoffs. And then Brock Purdy in post game interview was like, I'm glad that I had some adversity going into playoffs. And I think looking at the way the Raiders game ended, do you want the Raiders to put up that big of a fight? No. Do you want the 49ers to almost lose the game and have it, an interception be what really ends up winning the game at the last second when they were driving? No, you probably wanted the game over sooner. But when you're going into the playoffs with a very good defense, one of maybe the best in the NFL, and obviously an offense that since Christian McCaffery has joined the team, he is unstoppable. The only question is going to be on Brock. And he got his adversity. He definitely had some poor throws. I think it was at like 6 or 7 charted throws that were probably not great. And he, at the end of the day, I think he learned how to go out there and win a ball game. I think that's what's important, right? Like he's talked about how in college, I've had these moments, but in the NFL it's different. And so not to be this like never ending optimist where like my team can do no wrong and the 49ers are going to win the Super Bowl and all that. But it's like, if you want your 49ers to win the Super Bowl, like you feel like this needed to happen. And I'm glad that it did. But the key points that I do want to mention, though, is like, I don't know if there's words to explain how impressive and how exciting and how amazing what Christian McCaffrey is doing. Like we were all excited to see, it was always like what would happen if the best running back in the NFL was with Kyle Shanahan? What if Kyle Shanahan had a real RB1, right? All these things. Like, I mean, Trevor, you're as unbiased as it gets, right? You AFC fans, literally from the other side of the country. Mm-hmm. When you watch this team and when you watch Christian McCaffrey, like, did you even expect this? What is it like for you to see it?
I mean, he's one of the best talents in the NFL, no doubt about it. And like when this trade went down, it was sort of difficult to parse because, there's a lot of me that really does believe that the running back position in large is replaceable. There are a lot of running backs that are either currently in the NFL or have come through the NFL that are genuinely replaceable.
The 49ers have led that narrative. They are right. Like 80% of the reason why people believe that.
But I think that people miss this part. There are still rare backs that are the exception. There are much fewer running backs that I would tell you are the exception as opposed to wide receiver, corner, pass rusher, quarterbacks, certainly, tight ends, right? There are much fewer guys that you would say are the exception to the rule. McCaffrey's one of them. McCaffrey's absolutely one of them. It might be McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, as like these like one-of-one skill position guys that you cannot replace no matter what. Nick Chubb might be in there as well, but like Nick Chubb's style of runner, I mean, like we're going to see, I feel like, guys that could come through and maybe not do exactly what Nick Chubb does, but how far is the return on investment? What right. McCaffrey brings to the game is insane. McCaffrey brings so much great ability as a rusher and a receiver. So, and you pair him now with the best offensive head coach in the NFL, feels like, in Kyle Shanahan. All respect to Andy Reid, because I think he's up there as well. But
and Arthur Smith.
That was of course. And Byron Leftwich. And that was the thing about Christian McCaffrey is when I try to talk about the trade, it's like, did the Niners give up too much? Yeah, like on paper, yeah, they did give up too much. But every time I had this conversation, I made sure to say, make no doubt about it, this team is much better now because McCaffrey's there, because he is rare. So it was one of those things where it was a wild trade because they did give up a lot to get him, but they are in a position to win a Super Bowl because he is on the team. I don't know if that would be the case without him. And for that, it'd be 100% worth it, right? So that's how I look at the McCaffrey trade.
And the last thing I will say is, and my gosh, I will knock on wood, but the big thing is anyone paying attention to the trade was like, well, he has an injury history. The running backs on the 49ers have injury histories, and that's something that has to be accounted for. And I got to say, the first couple of games, every time McCaffrey ran the ball, I cringed. I'm like terrified. I'm like, please be okay. But like, Kyle is not holding back on using him. He had 19 rushes. He had 6 receptions. He ran for, he had almost 200 all-purpose yards last week. Like, it's the end of the season. Like, Kyle very realistically could be using Jordan Mason right now, who's like averaging 5.5 yards per carry. He still has Kyle Juszczyk that he can do gadget plays with. He can throw the ball to George Kittle, who's now become the best tight end in the NFL again because the team remembered that they could use him. Like, he doesn't have to use Christian, but he is, and so far so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they're the scariest team in the NFC. I do. I think they're the scariest team in the NFC. Certainly with the way that Philadelphia
not the Packers
beat up right now. No, in
Dog.
fact,
I knew Evan was going to.
I will choke you out in front of all of these people. I swear to God.
In fact, I do think that it's going to be Packers 49ers in the first round.
Please, dear God. There's a list of teams that I want to play. It's the Cowboys. I don't play football. That I want the 49ers to play. It's Cowboys first because they deserve it. They deserve it. The fans deserve it. But the Packers, just because the history is beautiful and Packers don't have. Are the Packers a better team than when they had Devontae Adams and they got boat raced by the 49ers in the playoffs?
No. Objectively, no.
Are the 49ers better this year than they were when they boat raced the Packers?
Objectively, yes. Yes.
I'm not. Hey, I never graduated college, but the math looks good there.
He's all in. Last thing on the Falcons, Trevor. Mm-hmm. So they don't make the playoffs. They win. Desmond Ridder had a really, really beautiful throw at one point to Michael Pruitt in this one that nobody watched against the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday afternoon. It's just one of those.
We actually said that when the game-winning field goal came up on Red Zone. Mm-hmm. We were like, have they showed one play from this game? Like,
they didn't need to.
What was the final score? The final score was like 19-17 or something. They kicked the field goal at the end to win. So so the score was 17-16. So they scored a combined more than 30 points at the time, and I'm pretty sure Red Zone did not show them one time.
Well, it was the 4th quarterback in 4 weeks for the Cardinals, David Blau. Blau? I don't know. I listened to the whole game.
Trust yourself. Trust yourself. You got it right.
Okay.
You got it right the first time.
He was not good. And the Falcons secondary still gave him time. And the pass rush, the Falcons, is just never going to happen. And I'm at this point where Falcons fans there's always this mutiny of like, the one guy I don't want at number 6, and I wanted to bring this into number 6, is where the Falcons look like they're probably going to be picking at 6. Mm-hmm. I am preparing myself mentally for Bijan Robinson there because the Falcons and Terry Fontenot has drafted offensive best player available the last 2 drafts in the top 10. Kyle Pitts 2 years ago, Drake London last year. And then he goes defense. And then he's like, all right, let me shore up the other stuff. But I'm going BPA offense in the first round. I could see it happen again, and I'm not ready for it. Am I crazy for thinking that they will go Bijan? And if it's not Bijan, because they're not going to be available, like Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, guys like that are not going to be there. And then you're like, do you reach on Jared Verse or whoever at 6? Like, I have no idea. So many Falcons fans wanted them to lose that game on Sunday because it's like, let's get in that 2-3 zone, and then we have our pick between either Will Anderson or Jalen Carter. I don't want anything to do with Jalen Carter and the snaps and no. Give me Will Anderson. He plays every snap. The guy's a menace on the edge. I'm always going to go edge over defensive tackle.
Chase,
dude was tired in that Ohio State game.
You're getting yourself all excited right now, man.
I am.
We have to accept the fact that you're taking Michael Mayer from Notre Dame.
No.
It's going to be another tight end at pick 6. It's just the way that the Falcons exist. You'll be running double sets. It's great.
If they draft Bijan, so I will say Bijan Robinson is of the Christian McCaffery mold, right? Like he is one of those players that gives you plus ability basically in every way that you could deploy a running back. Short yardage situation, home run situation, 1st and 10 as a slot receiver, as a receiver out of the backfield. Like, he brings you all of that. I'm not saying that he's Christian McCaffery yet, certainly, but like, you go watch his Texas film. He's untackleable. I mean, the forced missed tackle rate from him is just insane. He's got great hands. He's such a good receiver. He gets yards after the catch, gets yards after contact. He's got phenomenal vision. He's got wonderful feet. Like, he does. He is of that Christian McCaffrey mold. So any team that's drafting Bijan Robinson is getting a good football player. You just want him to go to the right team for the right value. If the Falcons drafted Bijan Robinson a year after getting Tyler Algier late and seeing this much production from Tyler Algier, that would be objectively bad given how many holes they have on the rest of their team. It's like Bijan Robinson. If they drafted Bijan Robinson at 6, it's like, hey, cool. Can you rush the passer? Like, that's like the only question that basically matters. And I do hear what you're saying. Like, if you miss out on Will Anderson, what do you do? I'm drafting defensive line. Like, I'm drafting Brian Brzee. I'm drafting Jared Verse. I'm drafting Miles Murphy. Like,
At 6.
Well, I mean, like, you can, if you like a lot of these guys, if you have faith in a lot of these guys, maybe you could trade down because you might be in a nice spot for some of these teams that are right behind you. Like, Carolina's going to need a quarterback. I know you're probably not going to trade in the division, but Carolina needs a quarterback. Las Vegas needs a quarterback. Washington Commanders are going to need a quarterback. Tennessee Titans might need a quarterback, right?
You know who also needs a quarterback?
Well, the Falcons, maybe.
The Atlanta Falcons.
Maybe.
I don't think so. Ritter, we have our Alex Smith. Like, I want him to be this quarterback, the team's quarterback for the next 5 years, build everything else out, and then once everything is good around Desmond Ritter, and if he's still not that guy, because you can win a lot of regular season games with Desmond Ritter. He's getting better every week. He doesn't throw picks. He's super smart. That guy, I'm telling you, he's going to win so many regular season games for this team.
Your hat is literally glowing right now.
I love Desmond Ritter. I know he can't win a Super Bowl for us, but he's competent.
Hold on. I just want to ask Trevor while we still have him. Obviously not is it a good pick, but is there a quarterback that could end up at 6 that the Falcons might go, we are not expecting this, we got to take them?
Yeah.
Like, are they taking C.J. Stroud or Will Levi?
He's gone by 6, right? There's no way Stroud's at 6.
I mean, he might be a 6. Well, I would have told you. So if you would have asked me this question a week ago, I would have told you there's absolutely a world where CJ Stroud's available at 6 because I know that not every team was super hot on him. And there's a lot of reason to believe that, right? Of course, there's the product of the Ohio State system where, yes, you don't want to get in a habit of scouting the helmet, right? And just be like, oh, Ohio State quarterbacks are bad. Like, you don't want to necessarily do that, but you also can't take a guy out of his system entirely, right? You look at what Ohio State has been. Their schedule's unbelievably soft. They've got 5 stars everywhere, 5-star playmakers, 5-star offensive line, 5-star running backs, right? And so it's like, okay, sure, you're a facilitator, but what'd you do in the big games? Ultimately, the question comes down to, what do you do when pressure mounts? 2 years ago, CJ Stroud's PFF grade under pressure was low 60s. Low 60s is fine. Like, low 60s is a fine grade under pressure. This year, before this weekend against Georgia, CJ Stroud's grade under pressure was 38. He was one of the worst graded quarterbacks in all of the FBS when dealing with pressure. Now, you go to the Georgia game, the college football playoff game, and I said before the game, fair or not, so many opinions of this guy are going to hinge on this game. If they're good, people are going to love him. They're going to overlook some of the stuff that we've seen over the last year or two. If it's bad, his stock might fall, man. They might be like, I told you this guy couldn't hang. Under pressure alone, CJ Stroud had an 82.6 grade, which is stupid high. That is amazingly high. That just shows you how well he played with adversity in his face, and I genuinely believe that if Marvin Harrison Jr. was healthy for that entire game and he was available for that entire game, Ohio State wins and Ohio State's playing for the national championship. That's how well that offense was playing. That's how well CJ Stroud was playing. So, all that to say, I would have told you a week ago that yes, absolutely a chance that CJ Stroud's available at 6. Now, it is still possible. It is much less because of how he ended his college football career, what we think going into the draft. Yeah. But I think that he'd be like if he's on the table, if Will Levis is on the table.
Oh my God! Don't you dare! Don't you dare,
could
Trevor!
Be in the conversation. The NFL's gonna love Levis. The NFL's gonna love Levis. I don't know what to tell you, Chase. You just gotta accept it.
If it's Anthony Richardson or Will Levis, I'm going to lose my absolute mind.
Arthur Smith's gonna look at Will Levis. He's gonna be like, "This is my Ryan Tannehill."
No.
But this is the thing about the draft, and I know we're over time. I'll say this.
Trevor hurt my feelings.
We are going to have to wait to see what Seattle does. And I don't know that anyone really knows what Seattle's going to do, and that's going to be just this damn breaking. It's like once they make their pick, if they take a quarterback or if they go DL,
they have to go Jalen Carter or Will Anderson.
Well, listen,
right?
I get it, but like Seattle and that fan base and everything that Geno did, do I think Geno's good enough? No, I hope they keep him. I love the guy; he's a great story. But like, if they don't take a quarterback, what if they swing for a free agent? Any of those things that could push the quarterback position down a bit.
We'll end on this. 20 seconds, Trevor. Mm-hmm. How many balls get drafted and where do they go?
So it would be. I mean,
Hendon Hooker. I'll reel him off for you real quick. Hendon Hooker. Where does he go? What round?
Somewhere on day 2. I don't know what people are going to think of his medicals and his age, obviously, but I think that he'll probably go like late 3rd round. I would say.
Jalen Hyatt.
End of the 1st round or early 2nd round.
Cedric Tillman.
I don't know where Tillman's going to go. Probably somewhere on day 2, though, because the league just loves receivers.
Jeremy Banks.
Mid-round pick, I would say.
Mid-round pick. Last one, Darnell Wright.
I think Darnell Wright's got a chance for the 1st round, but probably because he plays right tackle, I think there's a chance that he could also be a 2nd-round pick, but he played well against some good competition. You also didn't say my guy Byron Young.
Byron Young. Excuse me. Yeah, Byron Young as well.
Byron Young is going to probably be a fringe 2nd-round pick.
That's a lot of high picks for the Vols. That's got to be the best Vols draft in a really long time.
They have a lot of really talented players. The team's really good. I ultimately think that
Florida.
I think Darnell Wright or Jalen Hyatt's going to be the first Vol off the board. But I think Cedric Tillman, I think Byron Young. Did Brew McCoy declare?
No, he's coming back. He's getting the Cedric Tillman role.
Okay. So those guys, and then Hendon Hooker, I think you'll see those guys somewhere on day 2.
I like it. That's good. More Vols in the NFL. That's what everybody wants. VFL's Cordell Patterson.
I mean, Anthony Richardson's going to be drafted ahead of all of them, but it's fine.
Okay, well...
it's fine.
Everyone knows this.
Here's the thing. I'm going to be nice to Trevor as we wrap up here because he has to watch Graham Mertz under center for at least half the season next year.
I don't have to do a damn thing. Chase.
He works for the PFF now. He is a unbiased member of the NFL.
Oh, he's doing NFL though. He could still be a Florida Gator. He can be a Gator.
Man, he does draft stuff. Yeah. Right. Unbiased.
There you go. Unbiased. Evan Sowards, Trevor Sikkema. What can the good folks check out from you over on the YouTube show? With you and Mike Renner. Anything else you want to plug as we wrap up here tonight?
If you're into the NFL draft, I have a podcast called NFL Stock Exchange that I do with Connor Rogers 3 days a week, where we're going up and down our draft boards as we are kind of getting into the heart of the draft season at this point. We've got All-Star games coming up, so we're giving our rankings for all the positions this next month. And so, it's a lot of fun. Come hang out with us there, too.
Do it. Evan.
As always, as I say every single week, make sure to go ahead and check out It's Just Football.
Yes.
The NFL Stock Exchange.
It's a great YouTube show. I like it during the day. I like those day YouTube shows where I can have it on while I'm doing other stuff.
See, that was the goal, so I'm glad that it hit for you. That's good.
Appreciate it. Trevor, Evan, thank you as always, and talk to you guys again soon.
Appreciate it, Chase.